I woke up this morning in a really bad mood. I went to bed in a really good mood. I had a good day yesterday. I slept okay. I woke up pretty early, feeling kind of crappy. And as the morning wore on, I got more and more angry. I had some technical issues with someone I'm working with, but they hadn't done anything wrong. They just changed something I wasn't expecting to change. I couldn't make my mind up whether I wanted to stick with how it was or change to how they'd done it. I got stuck in that decision and I got so angry. I've been dealing with some anger issues for the last few months that I realized that, and I held a lot of anger in for a long time. And during this lockdown and during the last few months, I got in touch with it in a big way. It was huge. I spent quite a few weeks in a rage. But after years of suppressing it, that rage had to come out. Keeping your feelings down, repressing them, running away from them, trying to just not feel them because it's not acceptable to feel them. You're not allowed to express them. So you don't. You just push them down and they're coming out. They're coming out one day, somewhere. And if they don't come out, you'll sink into depression. Depression and anxiety, both of them are defense mechanisms against feeling, amongst other things. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a licensed healthcare professional. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, but I've been walking this path for a long time. I'm going to talk more about it in other vlogs, so I won't touch too deeply on it. But when it comes to anger, especially for men, you've got to find a way to process that. And there's a lot to be angry about. And we live in a society that both allows men to be angry and doesn't at the same time. It's different for women, I think. I'm talking about social conditioning. I think women have a lot to be angry about, but they're taught to not be angry. They're not allowed to be angry. It's not feminine to be angry, and that's BS. An angry woman expressing her anger healthily. That's the word. It's a beautiful sight. It can be pretty terrifying, but it's a good thing. She's just abusing people or attacking people. No. But expressing it properly, it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful in men as well. So anyway, I did what I normally do when I get really angry. I shout. I grab a pillow, shove my face in there, and I scream at the top of my voice. Take a cold shower. The blast of water hits me. That shocks me out of my ruminations in my head. Sometimes I'm shouting in the shower as well. Sorry if that's painting an image. Yeah, I won't actually take pictures of that. I won't film that. But it helps. It helps to get the feeling out, if nothing else. It doesn't solve the problem that I might be angry about. Anger is usually a sign that we're frustrated that we're not getting what we want, or that we've been denied something, or that something's pushing back on us. Anger is very much the edge of where we are and where the world begins. And anytime the world either impinges on us in some kind of way, or we have expectations about what we think the world should be giving us, and it doesn't, then we can get pretty angry. Obviously, those expectations are our issue. It's not the world's job to meet our needs. And when I say the world, I'm talking about everything outside me. So the world is everybody around me and everything in it. Those expectations are Yeah, they're a tricky one. I've been processing a lot of that recently from my last relationship. What does it mean to expect people to show up for you and to get angry when they don't, or can't, or won't? Whose fault is that? Who's responsible for that? Certainly, I'm responsible for my feelings. I'm responsible for my expectations. Can we have another word for responsible? I'm responsible for my boundaries and expressing my needs. But I think what I've really learned recently, and it's taken me a long time to get here, is that you can ask people to meet your needs, but you can't insist on it. You can't demand it. People can only show up where they can show up with what they've got. That's it. You've got no control over the other person. And the moment you start demanding or insisting, you're invading people's boundaries, you're heading towards tyranny, being tyrannical. I think I've been guilty of that. So this morning, I got angry. I was angry. And I stomped around the place and I shouted and I took a shower and I shouted some more. And in the end, I thought about the problem I had. And then I wrote an email. And I realized that I didn't want any of my feelings to be in that email. I just needed to resolve the issue. And so I did. And as I wrote it, I figured out what it was I needed to say. And also something else I've been learning, and this is huge, especially when we have problems with other people, or there's a problem in the way we're showing up, or in a relationship, it's problematic for us, for me. What I realize is you have to engage with the other person. It's not that it's their fault. It's just that they're there too. It's a relationship. You need to check in with them and express yourself in a non-judging, non-shaming way. Tell them how you feel. Maybe don't even tell them how you feel. Just tell them what it is that you want in this particular thing, especially if it's a work issue. And give the other person a chance to show up as well. And you'll be surprised if you approach people from a neutral, non-blaming, non-aggressive way, just clearly saying, you know what, this is kind of what I wanted. I'm not so happy with that. People want things to go smoothly. Most people. There are some drama kings and queens out there. But often that drama is them just reacting to something that they think is happening. It's usually in their head. But this is another thing I've been learning from a marriage therapist guy that I've been interacting with for many years, a guy called Al Turtle. You can Google him. He writes about relationships. He's a fascinating chap. Everybody makes sense. Everybody makes sense all the time. Everybody makes sense all the time. What do I mean by that? What does Al mean by that? That's an Al statement. Everybody makes sense all the time to themselves. Let's add the caveat. To themselves. Everybody is working with their own internal logic, value system, understanding, beliefs, worldview, their own identity, and everything that people do makes sense. I'm still struggling with this one, but I get it. It's true. I can see that it's true. This isn't about judgment calls. It's not about ethics or morality. Any you want to write below about the worst people in the world, the Pol Pots and the Hitlers and the Unabombers and the 9/11s and all of that stuff, and say these people didn't make sense. Not to you, they didn't. Did to themselves. And that's huge. I'm still trying to internalize it. It's the first step towards being empathic towards people, is to understand that whatever somebody else is doing makes sense to them in the moment, even if it's totally objectionable behavior, even if they're behaving like an absolute, they make sense. And the question is always, how do I respond? It drives me crazy, this stuff. Honestly, it does. I don't have the experiential answer to this. I got the intellectual answer. I still don't feel it sometimes, because everything I do makes sense, of course. And if I fly off the handle, if I get angry like I did this morning, it makes total sense. Take my background, my life history, everything that's happened to me, who I am, what I believe, that in that moment, anger was what I felt. I didn't attack anybody with it. I didn't put the anger in my email. I just expressed it and I dealt with it. If you were raised to believe that anger is a negative emotion, that it's a destructive emotion, that it damages people, that it hurts people, then I would invite you to start to look a little deeper. I recommend Facing the Fire by John Lee. Check that out. It's a great book. Get you started down the right path. I think, and this is a really important distinction, I think an awful lot of the behaviors that people choose to employ when they feel the emotion of anger are pretty destructive. Raging at people, abuse, abusive language, physical violence, sexual violence, violence against themselves, self-destructive behavior. And I would happily call that behavior destructive. But the feeling behind it is just another feeling, like all of our feelings. It's a part of you. It's a part of you, like your feet, like your hands, like your joy, like your hunger, like your sorrow, like your grief. We live in a society that teaches us to repress our anger and hide it. And because of that, it comes out in some really nasty ways. But if you can learn to get in touch with that part of you that is angry, embrace it, take it out to the woods to scream, or take it to the gym to get it out on the punch bag, go for a run, but you've got to run the anger out. You can't just run. You've got to actually express the anger through your motion. For me personally, it's in my voice. For a long time, I used to hit things, like I'd hit pillows in my bed. It didn't really work. I didn't feel the anger in my arms. It's in my voice. It's in my throat. It's in my voice being silenced as a child, being made to be silent, to shut up, that I couldn't say what I wanted to say, that my words didn't matter. And so now they come out. It comes out in words. I'm working through it slowly, getting in touch with that part of myself that's deeply disappointed, frustrated, that got really badly hurt when I was a child, taking care of that wounded child inside me. And that's really what's going on. That's fundamentally it with angry people. Is that somewhere along, and I mean, talking about really angry people, I'm not just talking about angry because you couldn't get your favorite ice cream flavor or because your phone broke. Like those are first world problems. I'm talking about the really deep rage, the suppressed rage, the stuff that sits underneath everything else, that sits alongside your grief. I'm going to talk about all of these different things a bit more. Grief and sadness. My first video is about sadness, and this one's about anger. And anger and sadness sit right next to each other. They follow into each other. There's a lot of sadness under anger. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Sadness and anger, they are bedmates. They hang out together. Exploring your sadness. I'm not just talking about melancholy. I'm not even talking about feeling sorry for yourself. When I talk about sadness, it's something else. You see my first video about that. I've got some thoughts on it. And anger, man, it's vital. If you don't learn to get in touch with your anger and learn to tame it and use it for setting boundaries and for pushing you forward and driving you forward, then it will control you. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you know what to do. I'll include a link to Al's work down below if anyone's interested. If anyone's going through some troubles in their relationships, go check him out. He's a good man, Vietnam vet, been through it. And he's got a great relationship with a great woman. He's walked the walk. He's walked the walk. He's walked the walk. And he can talk the talk. Yeah, and check out John Lee as well, his book. All right. Thank you. Speak to you soon.